Watching Neil Robertson taking on Mark Allen, and that wonderful vase is the prize, along with that rather handsome cheque of £175,000. Both of these players can move up to 7th in the world rankings, above Ding Junhui if they win.
Telephones away. Thank you.
Jan Verhaas, who's taken a bit of time off from his assessing this week to don the gloves again. Peggy Lee is helping him out as marker.
The overall standard has been very high this week. We know about all the centuries. We know that the table is playing comfortably, pocket-wise. You know, there's no getting away from it, as well as the players have played. The corner pockets are fairly generous, which kind of opens up a different angle, really. It's not how well you score, it's how good your safety is and how much you can keep your opponent out and stop him from scoring. That's a big part of the game on an easy table. Why it's easy, I've no idea. But the standard of play and the break making certainly point to that. Been a very good tournament. I've enjoyed it. And I would not like to pick a winner without sitting on the fence. I think that Mark Allen is scoring very heavily and he's capable of winning. But of course he had a day off yesterday, which is meant to be a good thing. I'm never sure it is. You know, he had a day to think about the final, and he wasn't involved at all. Hopefully that's not just taken the steam out of his sort of performances.
The irony is that Allen has never made any secret of the fact that he's no big fan of travelling overseas, particularly to Asia, with the very lengthy journey involved, and yet he's had a lot of success here. 2 of his 3 ranking titles have come in China. This is his 8th ranking final, and 6 of those have been in China. So although he may not enjoy the travelling, he seems to enjoy playing in Asia. This is Neil Robertson's 22nd ranking final appearance. And if he wins today, Robertson, he'll tie Mark Selby at 15 ranking event titles. Well, Jan Verhaas called for telephones to be turned off, and already we've had a ringtone.
It's almost like they're doing to spite him, aren't they?
Yeah, I've seen it. Now there's something under the cushion here.
The red on the right of the table is the one that's causing the issue here on the thin safeties. Could go into it on the way back up the table. Imagine a lot of interest in this match in Australia, where Neil Robertson, of course, is from Melbourne originally. I know that Eurosport goes to those parts of the world, Australia, New Zealand these days. So hello to anyone watching from there. Sort of good history of the game in that part of the world, albeit, apart from Robertson, not many other good players at this stage, this moment in time. But if you are watching, your man might be in first here. And he's got to get the spider out. It's not the easiest starting red, actually.
One.
Neil Robertson's path to the final has been somewhat tougher than Mark Allen's. He's had to work very hard. He's had some sticky moments. He was 4-2 down to Joe Perry before coming through in a final frame decider. He was 4-3 down and Snooker's required against Juan Sijun. Came through 6-4, and then of course 2 frames adrift to a very much in-form defending champion Mark Selby before reeling off 4 frames on the bounce, and he described that as one of the best matches he's ever been involved in terms of the all-round quality from both players. And then Jack Lisowski ran him close and asked plenty of questions, and Robertson said afterwards he was delighted to have come up with some key clearances, not necessarily big breaks, but really important clearances under pressure, winning frames he might have lost, and that was the difference, coming through 9-7 in the end.
Yes, I think the key to all those wins has been how he has responded when been put under pressure. And I think if you look at those wins, all of the ones you mentioned, including the Yan Sijun match, which incidentally I think he is a serious player coming through from China, is that he's beaten players who have played well against him. I mean, Mark Selby is pretty pleased with his game at the moment, I should think, but he still came second in that match. So Robertson should take a lot out of the fact that he's responded to whatever has been thrown at him. Hit that very well. Yes, he changed his cue earlier in the season, or during the close season actually, after the World Championships, and he immediately came out and won in Riga to
90.
Keep his record going of winning a ranking tournament every season, which has been going on for some time now. It's a tremendous record that he's got, because even though there's a lot of tournaments, it's the first one in 2006, and every year since then he's got something
20
against his name, a trophy that he's lifted. And let's be honest, this game is all about winning, isn't it? You're handsomely rewarded if you're losing finalists here, but you've got to win the title actually to get
27
remembered. Just flicked that red on the way through, but he's still on it, I think. Certainly the one above might go. Actually, the bottom one has been flicked into an unpottable position now.
$28.
It was the only way he could get top side of the blue was to finish near the cushion, but he's okay, I think. Certainly 1 or 2 reds go to the left corner. I don't see any reason why this match should not be very entertaining, because they're both hitting the ball, I think, as well as I've seen them for a long while. I think that applies to both of these two players.
33.
It's not an easy table. I mean, obviously, we think that the red by the pink goes just below it there. There wouldn't be a great deal else that does. He's looking at that red now, but if he was to play it, it would open up other reds. He's torn between the two shots. Red on either side of the pink.
$34. $41. $42.
It's a very good red to play on, wasn't it? The one from the black. It opened up the remaining reds. And he's still got the one by the pink, and of course the bottom red of the 5 as well.
$49. $50.
Options are still there. Still not taking the red by the pink.
58.
He believes it goes to the right middle as well. And you need
65.
colour with it, any colour. And it's an opening frame that he'll have won. And he'll have won it in good style if he can just finish the job off here. And he's not quite got there. Interesting.
65.
Could there be a turnaround? It wasn't an easy shot, actually, to roll it in like that. Just a glimmer of hope for Mark Allen where the balls are.
One.
First frame of a long match, but it would set him off on the back foot, I think, should he lose it, Robertson. A frame that he should have won. But there's a long way to go for that to be possible.
8. Nine.
It's a little soft screw up to the red by the pink spot. After this red, of course, as you're sure fully aware, things will get a little more difficult.
70.
Could play to cannon the top red of the two on the left and land him on the other one. He's tried. He's played it pretty well. He's not pushed the red into the middle of the table, but I think there's still a good shot that he's just executed there. The red on the right of the table is going to cause him problems because he's got that strange issue of being a left-hander who uses the rest right-handed. And it's an awkward shot for a right-hander to bend across and use the rest. That's to come, though. Now, I just get the feeling if it's ever going to play on that red down the right, it's going to be now. He's got the option to, I think, he could conceivably try and get on either of these reds, whichever he chooses. Now, you're going to see the problem I'm pointing out here. Now, he uses the rest as a right-handed player. But, of course, if he was right-handed, he wouldn't need the rest on this shot. And he just, he can't quite... I think Judd Trump and Barry Hawkins all have the same issue. It's a little bit awkward to lean across. It looks odd, doesn't it? But that went in very nicely.
33.
So the problem wasn't really enough to stop him. Well, the next shot becomes the biggest of the frame. If this goes in,
38.
There's no reason why he shouldn't win the frame from here. What a start to the match this is.
45.
Frames like this always feel as though they carry extra significance when a player is so far ahead as Robertson was and then sees his opponent
50.
pip him to the post with a winning clearance. Well, Allen is 4 pots away from doing that.
Yes, and it also sets something of a trend, doesn't it, at the very start of a match. If you can pinch one of these, you just got to play a good shot here.
54.
Brown to blue is always the last shot of a break, really. I mean, now that he's got that bang on behind the blue, you feel that he's a long odds-on favourite to win the frame
59.
now. It's been a tremendous start. Well, how about this for a
65.
steal?
It's been a terrific break. Neil Robertson shook his head when he missed on 65.
72 in the first
And
round.
that's the reason. A superb clearance of 72 from Mark Allen. 1 or 2 awkward reds, but he made them look straightforward as he developed them, cleared the table. What a start for Allen. He leads by 1 frame to 0. What a start to the final here in Darching. It promises to be special, and it certainly started that way. Neil Robertson first in, made a break of 65. He was on the cusp of clinching the frame. Mr. Red to right centre. And that was his last shot of the frame. A superb clearance of 72 from Mark Allen. And that will give him a huge amount of confidence. Not that he was lacking it. He's been playing outstanding stuff all week. When you consider he'd made 6 centuries before this tournament started this season. He's made 10 here alone. Working with former world champion Terry Griffiths again, and it seems to be paying off. And it doesn't matter how good you are, when you see your opponent clear up with 72 when you were 65 in front and on the cusp of winning a frame, it's bound to discombobulate you a little as Robertson makes an error.
Yes, I just know that Mark Allen is capable of playing very inspired snooker. He doesn't do it all the time. He's not the most consistent, is what I'm getting at, but when he won the Masters, I thought his victory against Ronnie O'Sullivan, he played almost perfectly there. And of course, Ronnie has built up such a reputation playing in London and certainly at the Ali Pali. Anyone who beats him there has done well, and he won very comfortably. So he's not frightened of playing in a big match with a big atmosphere. If anything, it makes him play better.
17.
Well, the bottom red is available to him, and I think he's played
24.
pretty perfectly, actually.
$25.
Could go into the bunch because he's got the loose red up the table. Depends how he feels about this bunch of reds, whether he would like to zip the cue ball into them and through them. That's always the worry. You need a bit of luck when you go into the bunch, and the cue balls become embedded in them, and there.
32.
I'm not sure what he can do with this. Just wondered if he could have even gone into them with a little bit more zip. But it's like one of those you can never be sure of where they're going to end up when you split the bunch. Some players are better than others, but there's still a little bit of luck attached to whoever's playing the shot.
Mark Allen, 32.
So, he hasn't missed one yet, but he break ended due to no position. Very good set of balls as well, isn't it, for anyone who does get a chance from here. Open table.
Tough pot, so close to the side cushion. Cued it beautifully.
One.
That's an absolutely terrific shot. It really is. I mean, he's played from the cushion rail, as you say, and they're never easy from there. And his position is perfect. If he wasn't careful with this, the cue ball could have gone a bit further to the left and he could have hit the black. Sublime cueing there.
Has it got the legs? Just about.
Eight.
He's been very good at absorbing pressure this week, Neil Robertson, which is a sign that he's feeling good about his own game. He's been in trouble on a number of occasions. He's had to weather a number of storms, including in the semi-finals against Jack Lisowski, who at times, in his words, played beautifully. Robertson's words, that is. As Mark Allen has a spell in his chair. But the way he fought back from 4-2 down against Mark Selby, who wasn't missing. And then again against Juan Sijer, who played some great stuff. And then to withstand the late barrage from Lisowski yesterday, who closed to within a single frame. All good signs for Robertson. He's feeling mentally very strong.
$16.
Awkward queuing here, though. Very awkward.
Yes, helped by the fact that he wasn't doing a great deal with the cue ball, but he, as you say, you can miss those, put a little bit of side on, and balls could go anywhere. I think it's important for him that if he could come back and win this frame with the fact that Mark Allen got in first. I know he only made 32, not quite the same with the 65 that Robertson made but lost the first frame. But psychologically it would mean a lot to him to get back level, I think.
24.
Yeah, particularly with the red he got in with, because that was missable, wasn't it? After
Very
the
good.
disappointment of losing the first frame.
You're absolutely right. It was a top shot.
$25.
Beauty of this final is you have got two players who are very close to the top of their game. Occasionally you get a final where one player's done well to get there, but you feel his form could tail off. I don't think that's the case here.
33. Sure.
Asking for the Hubel to be cleaned over by Jan Verhaas, who's refereeing. Still can't quite get used to him back with the gloves on, you know. He's been working for the WSA in a different role for quite some time. Of course, he's a senior referee, but he's also an assessor of referees now. You see him with a clipboard walking around at venues, writing things down.
39.
And here he is doing his job again. I wonder who's assessing him? That's the question. Maybe he's assessing himself.
Yeah, he's going to be asking himself some pretty
40.
searching questions after this match.
Robertson, we look at those two reds up to the right of the pink. I think they both go to the right middle bag. Which will come into play fairly shortly.
46. 47.
There's just something about Neil Robertson's demeanour this week that reminds you of
54.
how he was playing when he won the world title, those two UK titles, champion of champions. There's just a certain way in which he's going about his business. He looks
55.
sharp.
Yes, and that was a very good shot. There was always the risk in Carrington 1 he'd finish over the top of the other red, but he has got centre ball striking, so it's absolutely fine.
Just be mindful of what happened in the opening frame, of course, when he was close to clinching it, Mr. Red, and paid the price.
Yes, which means this is even more important. Leads by 29. He'll need two of the remaining three reds.
$62.
I think that was a safe option. Playing on the red in the middle into a full pocket across the table.
69.
He's bounced back already. Mark Allen got in first, made 4 red blacks, went into the bunch, and to be honest, the cue ball got stuck in them. Safe to say that Mark Allen has done nothing wrong yet. Robertson missed that one ball in the first frame, which cost him.
75.
But the standard is very high.
76.
A really impressive response from Robertson. That first frame could have hurt him, but he's just shrugged it off. Got in with an excellent opening red, which was very missable.
81.
Now closing in on a remarkable 31st century of this season. The way he's going, he might threaten his own record of 103 4 seasons ago.
'86. '90. 95. 101.
Interesting, there's him just making the century, not interested in pulling the black.
What a break that was from Neil Robertson. What a response to the manner in which he lost the first frame, and the standard is already sky high here in the Darching final. It's 1 frame apiece. Snooker of the very highest caliber already in our international championship final. 2 squeaky clean frames. Mark Allen pinching the first with a 72 clearance after Neil Robertson was in first with 65, Mr. Red. But what a response from the Australian. A century, clearing the table to the pink after Allen had got in initially at the start of that second frame and run out of position going into the bunch of reds. Both players at the top of their game right now. That was mighty close, so close that he's left it right over the hole.
That's kind of how things panned out in the first frame. Mark Allen left an immediate chance for Neil Robertson, which he went a long way to winning the frame, but didn't actually do it.
1.
When you see a situation like this, Robertson in again, you realise how important that clearance in the first frame was of Mark Allen's, or else Robertson could have been galloping 2 or 3 frames up now.
Eight. 9.
Certainly reds go to the right corner from over on the left of the table if he can get the cue ball across there, which I think he can. That's very good. Options are plenty.
16. 17.
Well, again, possibly not very fortunate there, as we saw with Mark Allen in the previous frame. How does he keep this break going? Kind of cut the red into the corner.
$25.
Well, he's willing that cue ball to stop, and it kind of has, I think, given him a shot. Couldn't be certain of the pace on it and as to where it would finish. I think he can pot this, but he's got to stand right up the other end of the table, I think. It's a thin old contact if he does get it. And you're very close up to the ball. Very difficult to know exactly what the angle is. It's hard to see it. You wouldn't want to push any side on. Over that distance, it would throw the ball onto the black cue ball, that is. This is missable.
Neil Robertson.
To the point where he didn't even go for it, which I'm surprised about.
Sure. Okay, yeah.
Allen spotting a foreign object on the cue ball, not taking any chances. In contrast to Neil Robertson's path to the final, Allen's most precarious match, of course, was the one with Liam Highfield. When he was 4-0 down at the interval, he barely scored a point at that stage. Highfield had played very well and ended up coming through in a final frame decider. But that aside, it's been relatively comfortable. He only lost 4 frames in his next 3 matches. Of course, Matthew Stevens played exceptionally well in their semi-final, but Allen still came through 9-6.
I think that's the beauty of the slightly longer matches in this format here. They've always been best of 11 in the international, which was for a long time the biggest of all the Chinese events. Others have caught up now in prize money. You're 4-0 down in a best of 9, you don't really think you're going to come back, but there's a little bit more breathing space over this distance, and he started to play very well after the interval in that match.
What a beauty. Play with a bit of safety in mind, but how well did he strike that?
Oh, very well is the answer. Beautifully cued. Cue ball seemed to zip back up the table quite wonderfully, which means his timing was perfect. What I mean by that, of course, is the cue was accelerating through the ball at exactly the right time.
3.
And that's where you get all the work on the ball so effortlessly.
4.
Obviously Neil Robertson was behind that black, but I must confess I thought he would probably try and cut that in. It may have been beyond him. He played the safety shot. You can't argue with that because you don't fancy a shot. You have to play safe. That's kind of always been the law of snooker. But I wonder if the same pattern's going to happen, that the guy who gets in first is not going to score enough to win the frame, and his opponent takes over in the second half. It's happened in frames 1 and 2. Robertson making 25 here.
19.
Which of course isn't by any means enough. I feel that's a very good shot. Screwed it round with left hand reverse side, 2 cushions. Reverse side turning into running side when it hits those 2 cushions there.
28.
Well, I'm not sure where his next red's going to come from here. That's not one of his better shots. Rolling this pink in, I don't think a red will go anywhere. You have to try and get into the cue ball. It's very difficult from there. What a great effort that was.
$34.
Choice of reds, neither of which are easy. That was a good shot. That was quite an acute angle to that middle pocket. I'll tell you what, Howes, he kept the break going. He was on the pink in the middle, over the top of the bunch. But somehow he got to dig into the cue ball and get onto a red.
43.
What's happened here? I'd be very disappointed with that last shot after all that.
Green ball. Mark Allen, 43.
So relief for Neil Robertson, who's back at the table. Mark Allen hasn't missed a ball in this final yet. He'll be disappointed to have run out of position there. Robertson back at the table, 18 behind, 59 left.
But not with an easy shot, because obviously the pink is blocking off the left side of the table as we look from player view there. And he can't get to a thin edge of the other side. What he can do is see a red full on, which would give him problems. He played out of a snooker and missed a couple of times.
Miscue. What's the damage?
Didn't sound very nice, and they never do, obviously. But I don't think it was necessarily a tip damaging miscue. And normally when you hit them harder and take a big chunk out of it, but any snooker players watching will know the feeling of a miscue is not a good one. Not because of the shot, but you're worried about looking at the tip on your cue and seeing what's happened to it. I suppose it's heartening to know that even the best players do it, don't they? Because if somebody's just a local club player and you might use a cue that's out of the rack, forget to chalk it and you miss cue. But these guys do it as well. Like a professional golfer who'll just shank one occasionally. It's almost heartening to know they can.
Human after all. The good news for Robertson was that he didn't leave a red. He could easily have done so. But the table not particularly appetising. He remains 18 points adrift.
Yes, and as I've said before, you know, clearly a good scoring table, very good conditions. Another great pot.
One.
Well, it's up for grabs this frame, that's for sure. Both players still in with a hope, and Robertson has cued this one well.
Seven. Neil Robertson, 7.
Well, just when you think that the player is going to knock one in, it was probably an easy one. To be honest, it was never anywhere near the pocket.
The way Alan has been potting during this tournament, you expected him to get that one. This frame rather different from the first two, which is just a sea of breaks. But as Neil said, every bit as important and arguably more so. These tight frames are the ones that really count at the end of a match. Alan going for his 4th ranking title. In his 8th final. He said last year he was lucky to win 7 frames against Mark Selby, who he described as producing awesome snooker. And you'd have to say, for a player of his ability, Neil, 3 ranking event titles is pretty thin. Of course, he's added the Masters now, but he'll feel as though he needs to win a lot more to justify it, or to fulfill his talent.
Oh, the strange old shot, isn't it? The cube will end up there with the double kiss. Yeah, I think one thing we shouldn't forget is that ranking titles are very difficult to win. There's so many of them, but there's so many good players. But you're right, he probably should have won a few more.
Oh, well, that was superbly cued again.
Well, he certainly will win a few more if he keeps knocking those in. That was brilliant. You look at players like Mark Allen, obviously Robertson is an example of a player that has picked up a lot of trophies, but you could say that he's something like Stephen Maguire, who, you know, for many years has been a leading player, but some would argue has not achieved what he could have done. You know, Mark Allen doesn't want to be in that category. He wants to become a prolific winner.
Black. Mark Allen.
I'd rather play the safety and the snooker than take the points with no way back to the reds.
Interesting shot, because he's put two balls out of the game there, the green and the black. He hopes that, of course, the green is not something that he'll need.
Amber Haas just confirming he's happy with exactly where the cue ball is in case there's a foul here and the white has to be replaced.
He's hit the jackpot there, isn't he? Just catching that thin.
Both of these players are known for their excellent break building, but they're more than capable of mixing it in the tactical department as well. That's a valuable little lead of 12 there, as we were saying, especially with the green safe. So you'd make Mark Allen favoured on that basis. But he would still do quite well to win the frame without needing the green, because they take fairly high value colours with the two reds. Me. Now the problem he's got here is, without wishing to go on about it, he will need the green, it seems, which he put safe. If you could get him in a pretty nasty snooker, he could get some points that way, because he's going to play something here. He must have something in store that's very unpleasant for Neil Robertson.
Black ball. Mark Allen
in the end, he could have played it better than that, actually.
Foul. And a miss.
I think he's got to have it back. As I say, we're concerned now, Robertson, that he's in an awkward snooker. I thought he could go one cushion on the left side. It may be that the middle bag is in the way.
Can you, Gary, can you bring it up, please?
I don't think it was quite as much behind the pink as it is there.
No, because he couldn't play the shot he did if it was there. So it looks to me as if he can go the one cushion escape on the left side. I don't know if the middle pocket is in the way. Looks like they've established where the cue ball was anyhow.
And that was a bit further up than the green was from the cushion. Are you good with this? Yeah? Mark? Okay, thank you.
Very good shot. Got there in the end. This coverage been shown in various parts of the world, certainly Australia, New Zealand, and there's a big interest in the game over there, as I was saying earlier. A lot of people still follow snooker, and their man is Neil Robertson. He's the flag bearer for the country. Good to see snooker getting big again in that part of the world. We've had some great players over the years. Of course, the late Eddie Charlton being the one I remember most. Of course, it goes back even further to the Lindrams and the like. But it would be wonderful to see other players coming through. I hope you're watching and enjoying the coverage.
Another good long pop from Mark Allen. He's still got a bit to do, though, to make the frame safe. 18 in front now. Yes, Neil Robertson has been an outstanding overseas player. The most successful non-UK player in the game's history, of course, with 4 Triple Crown titles, including the World Championship, the full set. When you factor in that he's done it the hard way, came over to the UK as a teenager, hoping to make a living out of the sport, wondering whether he was good enough, fell off the tour initially, but kept plugging away, and it's certainly paid off handsomely.
Interesting shot there from Mark Allen, ignoring any thoughts of getting a snooker on the yellow. Just all he seems to want to do is just kill high-value colours off. I don't blame him. He's 18 in front. And now look at the table. It's everything's off its spot and on the cushion. A terrific shot. Very good. Sometimes one cushion escapes, and if he goes that way, they can be more difficult than 2. He's actually think he's going to go the 2 cushions now. For some reason, the 2 cushions can be easier. Played it very well.
Mark Allen, firm favourite as things stand with the position of the colours and that 18-point lead, but he's still going to need both the yellow and the green.
Yes, well, during my playing day, I remember a couple of very good players from Australia. Warren King, talented player. You may even be watching this, and warmest regards if you are. And John Campbell, who based himself in London for a while, West London, another Australian, another tough match player. Oh, this table now, look at this. This is, how is anyone going to win the frame here? Certainly Robertson, 18 behind, is a big odds against where the balls are. It's almost like you have to pot them individually in separate visits.
Yeah, talking about Eddie Charlton, who you referenced there, he was a sporting all-rounder, wasn't he? I mean, he was adept in all sorts of disciplines, boxing, surfing. He was a top-class footballer as well. Handy at cricket too.
Well, he was always going to be good at cricket, wasn't he, being an Aussie?
Well, that's true.
It was always going to be in there somewhere.
And of course, he was both World Championship and World Billiards Championship finalist, without winning either. Wonderful talent as an all-round sportsman, Charlton. Double kiss, but there's the obvious problem of the green. I remember when Eddie sadly passed away, owing to an anomaly back then with the way the rankings were calculated, he actually rose in the rankings after he was no longer with us. And I remember the Snooker Scene headline reporting this strange turn of events under the headline, "Charlton is risen."
Two.
So in goes the yellow, but the green is the problem.
It is a problem. At least it kind of makes the frame slightly different now. I thought he might hit it, get
Robertson, two.
the green into play a little bit more than that. Just as while we're still on this tactical battle, I want to say hello to Kurt Dunham, who played on the tour for 2 years. He just said, thanks for the shout out to us Aussies tuned in to Eurosport Australia tonight. Well, you're much missed on the tour, Kurt. I watched you play a very good couple of matches. One was in the Welsh last year, where trying to think who it was you beat, but you played a blinder. Might have been Ryan Day who Kurt beat. I guess the beauty of snooker, Philip, is that you do get frames like this. All we've seen all week is heavy scoring, and then you get a frame that becomes heavily tactical, and that's because everything, no two frames are the same, simple as that.
It couldn't be a greater contrast, could it, from the first two frames, which was just a blitz of scoring from both players. But every frame counts, and these are the sort of frames which, if you can prevail in them, give you that extra boost. And equally, it's pretty demoralising to lose a frame of this length, having invested so much in it, to have nothing to show for it at the end of it. And it might well be frames just like this one which will decide the match. We know that both players are capable of one visit snooker, but whoever comes through these tougher tactical affairs might well be the one lifting that vase aloft at the end of the evening. Robertson still with a lot to do, trailing, and two of the colours very awkward. Well, he's managed to get the green off the cushion, but The pink, I should say, but he's left a chance for Allen. Needs green and brown to leave Robertson requiring a snooker. Not to be, just overcut it.
It's got a bit of cover, I think, on the pink there. Yeah, sometimes the scoring, or the ability to pop balls dries up when you've had a long bout of safety and tactical play. But for the draw of the middle pocket there, I think he might have been snookered here, Mark Allen, but pretty sure he can get across to the green now.
Great pot.
3. Yeah.
Yes, and now, of course, Mark Allen will need the blue himself, which is the only safe ball, so Robertson is very much back in the frame for that reason alone.
Thank you. Neil Robertson, 3.
This frame by a distance longer than the previous two put together, but Allen remains in control.
Good contact made. I just wonder if he's got a similar shot here that he played the last time. If he could get the brown up and down the middle of the table, he might be able to get a snooker behind the black. And he's tried the shot. Just overrun it a bit.
Well, that's two terrific pots in a row.
4.
Yes, and he's really changed his frame now. Now that the blue's going to be put into the middle of the table.
Neil Robertson, 4.
Again, could be an up and down safety shot, and the cue ball heading in behind pink and black. He's got one and just failed at the previous. You know, it's potentially a dangerous shot, but it could be a frame one if it works out. So he's kind of tried it in a different way. Don't think he was using the pink and black to his advantage there, playing it cushion to cushion like that. Hard to get cover because the two balls were not that close coming from that angle.
Mark Allen just needs the blue. Robertson obviously needs all three. It would be some frame for the Aussie to win, given where he was with the position of the colours. Now then, Allen, remember, just needs this blue, and Robertson would need a snooker. And he's got it. He stroked it in beautifully. Didn't touch the sides. Where's the cue ball going to end up, though?
5.
Goodness me, he kind of knew, didn't he? Almost halfway down. He almost knew. It's as if that he was certain it would go behind there. Now, he should hit this, really. But it's a self-inflicted snooker. Don't tell me.
Mark Allen,
That would have been the most unfortunate postscript to it, wouldn't it, if it had gone in off?
Yes, that would have tested his patience, to put it mildly. It's been a real struggle, this frame, hasn't it, in complete contrast to the first two, which sailed by with big breaks.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be... I think this is a complete one-off, this frame. You get them sometimes, nothing happens, nothing goes right. I mean, everything was on the cushion at one point.
And Robertson will be obviously frustrated. I think Allen will be relieved, because there was just a danger there that Robertson might end up winning a frame he looked certain to lose.
You've just got to be a little bit careful here, Mark Allen, because while I don't think he's going to get a snooker here, the positioning of the black tells me that it's not impossible. At some point, Robertson could get one. He's in a good place. Trouble is, you don't get many efforts at a snooker on the pink and black, because your opponent will roll it in or over the pocket. And here, Mark Allen will be dropping this right over the top left pocket, or preferably in there.
So, a chance for Allen to finally put this marathon frame to bed. Oh.
If he'd have played that at a sort of normal pace, I don't think he'd have missed it. But when you roll them, that can happen. Of course, he didn't want to play it any harder and risk going in off. I think if Mark Allen plays this a little bit firmer, he'll get it. Plays it dead weight, anything could happen. As I say, that's the problem with the shot. It's got a half a chance here, you know. Play thin off the pink. This cue ball will be heading in the region of the black. Not really got anywhere near the shot, to be honest. For someone as studious as Robertson, trying to get a snooker here has been pretty fruitless so far.
Done well to keep the pink out there, hasn't he? But surely now, Mark Allen is going to put this largely forgettable frame to bed. Forgettable in terms of its quality, but very significant, because it was a grueling frame, a tough one to lose and a great one to win, and it's gone the way of Mark Allen, who moves in front here once again at 2 frames to 1. Neil Robertson will feel a little exasperated after a frame that lasted the best part of 50 minutes, went against him. Just half a chance at the end of it to pinch it. When he got down to the blue, he was right back in the mix, but Mark Allen stroked in a fine pot on the blue from long range, and ultimately that proved to be enough. Robertson couldn't get the snooker he needed on the pink, so 2-1 to Allen. This is the last frame before the mid-session interval. There are 9 frames, remember, in this session. And then they're back again from 11:25 UK time later this morning for the concluding session. I say 11:25, that's assuming we don't have too many more frames like the one we've just seen. Otherwise, that evening session here in Darching could be delayed. And that's the problem, isn't it? When you have a frame that's so bitty and scrappy as the one we've just seen, then the rhythm that these players showed in the first couple of frames can be lost.
Well, the first 2 frames were exceptional, weren't they? They're really good frames of snooker. Frame 3 looked like going that way. And all of a sudden, Mark Allen made a positional error. And the rest, as we say, is history. Big title this, it shouldn't be forgotten. First prize, £175,000, which goes onto your ranking, which really does secure you a good place in the ranking list for, well, for 2 years.
Another good pot from Allen and good control on the cue ball. Yes, and that's a passport to further potential riches, isn't it, with the World Grand Prix for the top 32 on the one-year list, and the Players' Championship for the top 16, and the brand new Tour Championship coming up next year as well for the top 8 over 12 months.
Yes, and of course you'd like to think that £175,000 stroke points would get you into the 8-man event, the Tour Championship, never mind the others you mentioned, which certainty to be in. And that would be anyone who's in that, just an 8-man ranking event, is going to have a very good position in the ranking list at the end of the season, just by being in it. So really, this first prize is worth way over £200,000 in my view, because it can open a lot of doors for you. That's the way the tour is now.
70.
The way it's structured is very interesting. Takes a little bit of working out, but you win a tournament and you really do get the benefits.
24. $25. $32. $33. $40.
Yes, he was not entirely sure at first. He got up and looked at it again, and the little nudge through the bunch worked out particularly well. And he's 2 or 3 times he's had the option to play on that bottom red, the one along the cushion. Of course, understandably, he's not going to be that interested in that shot. That is absolutely
48.
perfect. Really, that really is the place you'd put the ball with your hand. You want to finish on a red.
49. $56.
I think he'd like to have stayed around the black spot, but it wasn't really possible there, and the frame is more important than trying to better his 146 break. Pick up the bonus.
Yes, he's on £3,000 as things stand. Were he to make a maximum, or Robertson can pip him to the post, then that would be worth a total of 8,000 as a bonus.
$63.
But normal service resumed after that very lengthy third frame. Mark back in the groove. Excellent long red and position at the start of the frame, and it looks like winning this third frame, this fourth frame I should say, for him, and a 3-1 interval lead. Frame ball already.
69.
Amazing, isn't it? This frame has come and gone in the blink of an eye.
76.
He's a very fluent player when he gets into full stride.
He has been prolific this week. 10 centuries, more than anyone else. Threatening to add another one here.
85.
The thing about him is, as I said before, his cue ball does not travel very far in a break. And you watch him. He's the kind of player, he doesn't use a cushion unless he really has to. Some players always play off the cushion onto the next ball. He tends not to use them.
93.
Obviously, there's a number of shots in which he has no option, but when he's in, he's quick. Well, he can make 143, but right now that's not important. He's locked away the break prize with his 146, as I was saying. Little cannon here. That's very nice, although it's not an easy one. It's the most promising to see him playing like this after what was a scrappy third frame.
Mark Allen, 108.
A scrappy third frame which he won, and he certainly capitalised on that
49.
with a century to follow. So it's Mark Allen with the early advantage in this International Championship final as they go to the interval. He leads by 3 frames to 1.